My grandmother was a police dispatcher for over a decade. Loved cops, but also told me to be aware of bad cops. Okay, I think that being a police officer is a very noble position, and I think that we absolutely 100% need cops and we need good cops. But if you do not look at the historical context of intentionally putting black people into the ghettos and then over policing them, and them also in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s being the arm, they're always the arm of upholding the systems that we have in place, but they intentionally were keeping up with segregation, and they were also getting away with beating, killing, and lynching black people. I can't stress that enough. 40s, 50s, 60s, Jim Crow, whatever else, they got away with killing, beating, and everything with black people. And so what that builds is generational distrust between the two communities. I mean, it's a fact. I'm not trying to over sensationalize this or anything. It is a fact that police got away with this and it was okay. And so black people built a distrust of the police because they were able to get away with this. And then you go into the 80s and we add drugs to all of this, and then you add the 3 strikes rule. While all of this is going on, yes, our police are getting better. For me to say that today there are as many racist cops or bad apples as there were in the 50s and 60s, I'd be lying. Oh my gosh, I don't believe that. I vastly believe that there are the vast majority of cops, overwhelming. I want to overstate that. I know that the majority of cops are good. Mm-hmm. I absolutely do that, and I want to stress that. But the systems that are in place have protected the bad cop. And I'm going to talk about the systems that are in place and how they are not giving the resources to officers that they need as well when it comes to training. So I want to go ahead and let you know that. But I'm going to talk about the systems that are in place right now that protect bad cops. So we built this distrust of police over decades. All right. And so I think if you don't have this historical context and you aren't thinking about that, when you are when you're looking at how we move forward or how Black Lives Matter is anti I'll say Blue Lives Matter or back the thin blue line, they're not opposing. They don't need to be. But what the issue is that there is a lot of distrust between the two communities, and it is because of the history, and you can't just wipe it away and flip the switch and say, hey, let's turn. We have to get rid of the systems in place that protect these bad officers that are getting away with doing these things. And I mean, when you want to talk about the systems and want an example of systemic racism, we're looking at the case of Ahmaud Arbery. You already said that, but look no further than the case with George Floyd. Yeah. Derek Chauvin. He had 18 open cases of public issues. 18 marks on his record. 18. And yet he was still out there policing people.
So here's the depth of the systemic aspect of it. I didn't know that.
Yeah, 18.
No idea.
18. So
would you be, let me ask you, would you be allowed, like if you had 18 open records as a black man, what would you be allowed to do?
I mean, let's not even look at it that for police. Like, what job can you have where you have 18 marks? I talked to my boss today about that. I was like, that's so shocking. Can you imagine if I even had 3 customers come back to him and say, hey, 3 of my clients come back to him and say, hey, Torrance isn't doing his job. He's not great, whatever. You might be able to say with 3, and, maybe they just didn't like what he said or whatever else. I like Torrance. He's a good person. But when you have 18, it wouldn't get to 18, first of all.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
If 7 of my customers or 7 people come to me and say, yeah, he's done a bad job, I'd be done. I'd be out. He got to keep going until he killed somebody. 18 marks on his record. And the systems that were in place and are in place protect him. He knew that he was going to be protected, and you could see it in his face. He wasn't worried while his knee was on George Floyd's neck. He wasn't worried at all. His hand was in his pocket. Do you get more nonchalant than that? The fact that people are saying, oh, well, he was He was fearing that this man might attack him, might get up, roll over, run away, do whatever. With 3 grown men on him and another officer around, he had his hand in his pocket.
Casually.
Yeah. Because he knew that it didn't matter. He knew he had the power. He knew that no matter what happened, because it's happened 18 times before, he was going to get away with it.
Yeah.
That is what I mean by their systemic issues.
What we have seen in this time is that juries are reluctant to convict officers on high charges because they empathize with how difficult their job is. I understand that. If you are someone who's backing the Thin Blue Line or Blue Lives Matter, if you are not a cop and you support that group, you are empathizing with police officers, because we all know, and I'm not unincluded in that. I support the Thin Blue Line. I think that Blue Lives Matter. We're empathizing with officers and saying that we know how difficult your job is. Now, on the flip side, with Black Lives Matter, there are a lot of white people that are Black Lives Matter, and they're not affected by racism. They don't experience it, but they are empathizing with Black people and listening to them about their perspective. These don't have to be opposing ideas.
Correct.
You can be Black Lives Matter and you can be Blue Lives Matter, and they need to work together in order to create change and also to create trust. There's so much trust that is missing right now between those two communities, and it's not the police's, well, a lot of the history is the police's fault, but I mean, that's the system that they were allowed to be in, and things have changed now. But we need more change, because all the police are doing right now is they're upholding the systems that are there, and they want the systems to change as well. But we need people here with Blue Lives Matter to be able to empathize with Black Lives Matter and what they're going through. But
Correct.
We also need people who are supporters of Black Lives Matter to empathize with officers. I don't know why there's a line of demarcation and we are either here or we're here. We all just need empathy and being willing to be open and work with one another.
Yes.
I cannot stress that enough. We need to build trust, and you do not have to be on opposing sides. The system is screwed, but if we work together, we can work to change it and put forth things and legislation that we believe will work for everyone. Police
Correct.
officers, Black people, white people, everything.